Hello all, this is James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade, and I'm back here with another update on Article 13 and the EU Copyright Directive. Um, so, a member of the European Parliament, Julia Reda, who has been championing basically the internet in Europe, has recently released some information about the upcoming vote. And this is what she has released for all of us to know. And this is very serious. It's going to change the internet as we know, internationally, everywhere, not just in Europe. And it has major implications for everybody that uses the internet. So, in the evening of February 13th, negotiators for the European Parliament and Council concluded the trilogue negotiations with a final text for the new EU Copyright Directive. That means they've finally agreed to all the verbiage of this law, and they're ready to vote on it. For 2 years, we've debated different drafts and versions of the controversial Article 11 and 13. Now there is no more ambiguity. This law will fundamentally change the internet as we know it, if it is adopted in the final upcoming vote. But as Julia Reda wants us to know, we can still prevent that. Read on for details about the text and how we got here and what to do next. What's in the EU Copyright Directive? Well, it's comprised of Article 11 and Article 13. Article 13, which it's most popularly known for, is upload filters. So parliamentary negotiator Axel Voss accepted the deal between France and Germany I laid out in a recent blog post. Commercial sites, that's a blog post that Julia Reda laid out, so go ahead and go check out her blog post if you want to know more about that. Commercial sites and apps where users can post material must make best efforts to preemptively buy licenses for anything that users may possibly upload. That is, all copyrighted content in the world. A most impossible feat. So, basically, commercial sites and apps where users can post material, YouTube for instance, must make best effort to preemptively buy licenses for anything the users may possibly upload. There's a lot of different YouTube users. Some people post things like how to make a Christmas wreath, to how to shave your dog, to how to play a video game, to what the best recipe is for lasagna. Everything, literally everything is posted on the internet, and YouTube would be responsible for buying a license for literally everything to meet this law's demands. In addition, all but very few sites, those both tiny and very new, will need to do everything in their power to prevent anything from ever going online that may be an unauthorized copy of a work that a rights holder has registered with the platform. They will have no choice but to deploy upload filters, which are by their nature both expensive and error-prone. Should a court ever find their licensing or filtering efforts not fierce enough, sites will be directly liable for infringements, as if they had committed the infringements themselves. This massive threat will lead platforms to over-comply with these rules to stay on the safe side, further worsening the impact on our freedom of speech. So let's be very clear here. What that's saying is that if a European court doesn't feel that YouTube's current filtering mechanisms are fierce enough to protect from copyright infringements happening, then they can be gone after in a European court of law by whoever would like to go after YouTube for a piece of the pie, for damages. So some examples would be the music industry. The music industry is the main industry that is championing this law. The music industry sees this as a way for them to make money by doing what they've already been doing on YouTube. YouTube already has a problem with the music industry claiming people's work, and those are videos that may be monetized by anyone and everyone. If the video's been seen 200,000 times and it's worth X, and for some reason a 4-second segment of the 2-hour-long video had a slightest little lyric of whatever music that particular record label represents, they will file a copyright claim on the entirety of that video, and all the money from that video that creator has made will go to the record label filing the making the claim. The creator then can dispute it. But the funny thing is, when the creator disputes it, it's the record label that they're disputing it with. The person that files the claim against them is the person who has the right to say, oh yeah, we're right. We didn't actually mean to claim that. Of course they did. So they're never going to rule against themselves. So if a video makes a whole ton of money, well, now they just made a whole ton of money. And they didn't do anything to make it, except find a couple of words from one of their songs in it. See, that's how the music industry now makes money, is by pressing all of these false claims in YouTube land to try to make up for the lack of the music industry actually making money. They need to adapt and overcome. They need to find a new way forward in the new age of technology. But the music industry is a behemoth that doesn't know how to adapt to new technologies. And so they are pushing forward old people, which are lawmakers. Lawmakers, by and large, are people of a certain age and or stature who do not partake in the internet anywhere near to the extent that most of you do. If you think the average congressman, senator, European parliament member sits down and creates Let's Play videos or watches Doomcock's latest review of Star Trek Discovery, well, you're wrong. They don't watch YouTube very often, if at all. They might not even know what YouTube is or how it works. All they know is that the music industry has begged them for this legislation and claims that it'll make them money. And since the music industry is a lobbyist, they've decided to go to bats for the music industry. Without the people like you and I, the small people, we don't have anyone to bats for us. Well, we do. We have people like Julia Retta here, who's giving us this information. But not everyone in the European Parliament are sane or on our side. If they were, we wouldn't be having this conversation because the law wouldn't have even gotten to the point to be voted on in the first place. But it is going to be voted on within the next 2 weeks. Within the next 2 weeks, the internet as you know it is possibly going to change, and drastically so. Now let's move on with what Julia Retta has brought here to inform us about. Article 11, the link tax. The final version of this extra copyright for news sites closely resembles the version that already failed in Germany, only this time not limited to search engines and news aggregators, meaning it will do damage to a lot more websites. So, what does this mean? The link tax means you're a YouTuber and you decide to post a clip of the BBC doing a survey for X, and you just use this visual thing that you grabbed off of the internet in which the BBC has a chart or a graph, and you link that with a hyperlink in the text below. Guess what? You're now in violation of Article 11 and the link tax. Reproducing more than single words or very short extracts of news stories will require a license. That will likely cover many of the snippets commonly shown alongside links today. In order to give you an idea of what they lead to, we will have to wait and see how courts interpret what very short means in practice. Until then, hyperlinking with snippets will be mired in legal uncertainty. And if there is legal uncertainty about it, YouTube and platforms similar to YouTube are going to side on the side of caution. All of it will be considered illegal because they can't take the risk that it's going to be considered illegal, no matter how short it might be. No exceptions are made, even for services run by individuals, small companies, or even non-profits, which probably includes any monetized blogs or websites. So, here I am, a small YouTuber. I have, 62 subs. I don't do this for money. I don't get any money from my videos. But I could still violate this, even though I don't make money off of my videos. I can still be in violation. And if I'm in violation, YouTube is in violation. So what I did, YouTube would be responsible for. And they would have to pay the piper. Is that fair to YouTube? No. Other provisions. The project to allow Europeans to conduct text and data mining crucial for modern research and development of artificial intelligence has been obstructed with too many caveats and requirements. Right holders can opt out of having their works detained by anyone except research organizations. Authors' rights. The Parliament's proposal that authors should have a right to proportionate remunerations has been severely watered down. Total buyout contracts will continue to be the normal. Minor improvements for access to cultural heritage, Libraries will be able to publish out-of-commerce works online, and museums will no longer be able to claim copyright or photographs of century-old paintings. That's right. This law was so broad in encompassing that if you posted a picture of the Mona Lisa, the Louvre could come after you for damages because that's their painting. They have the copyright on it. Well, thankfully, the Louvre can't come after you for posting a picture of the Mona Lisa. I guess some things are still enough common sense. But still, most of this goes beyond the level of common sense. Most of this is just going down a rabbit hole that makes you have to shake your head and wonder, who are these lawmakers? So the history of this law is a shameful one. From the very beginning, the purpose of Article 11 and 13 was never to solve clearly defined issues in copyright law with well-assessed measures, but to serve powerful special interest with hardly any concern for the collateral damage it could cause. In the relentless pursuit of this goal, concerns by independent academics, fundamental rights defenders, independent publishers, startups, and many others were ignored. At times, confusion was spread about the crystal clear contrary evidence. Parliament negotiator Axel Voss defamed the unprecedented protest of millions of internet users as built on lies. Yes, there was something like 4 to 5 million protesters of this that Mr. Axel Voss called trolls and liars. In his conservative EPP group, the driving force behind this law, dissenters were marginalized. The work of their initial appointment representatives was thrown out after the conclusion she reached were too sensible. Mr. Voss then voted so blindly in favor of any and all restrictive measures that he was caught by surprise by some of the nonsense he had gotten approved. His party, the German CDU-CSU, nonchalantly violated the coalition agreement they had signed, which rejected upload filters, paying no mind to their own minister for digital issues. It took efforts, equally Herculean and Sisyphean across party lines to prevent the text from turning out even worse than it is now. In the end, a closed-door horse trade between France and Germany was enough to outweigh the objections so far. What's important to note, though, it's not the EU in general that is to blame, but those who put special interests above fundamental rights who currently hold considerable power. You can change that at the polls. The anti-EU far right is trying to seize this opportunity to promote their narrow-minded nationalist agenda, when in fact, without the persistent support of the far-right ENF group dominated by resemblant Front National, the law could have been stopped in the crucial Legal Affairs Committee, and in general would not be as extreme as it is today. So basically, the right is not in unison. Parts of the right disagree with the right. In fact, I'm a very right-leaning person here in the U.S., and I completely disagree with everything that this stands for. We could still stop this law. Our best chance to stop the EU copyright law, the upcoming parliamentary vote, which is happening within the next 2 weeks. The Parliament and Council negotiators who agreed on the final text now return to their institutions seeking approval of the result. If it passed both votes unchanged, it becomes EU law, which member states are forced to implement into national law. That's right. Every country in the European Union has to make this law, or there will be financial repercussions and loss of voting rights within the EU. So they are forced to follow suit with what the EU, this overarching body, tells them to do. In both bodies, there is resistance. The Parliament process starts with the approval by the Legal Affairs Committee, which is likely to be given on Monday, February 18th. So it's unlikely that it's going to be stopped February 18th, but it could be stopped February 18th if enough people contact the right people and get it stopped. If you go out and you find your member of European Parliament, if you're a European, do so. If you're not a European, if you're in Australia, contact your representative of government and tell them to tell those buggers over in Europe that they're making legislation that's going to affect them and to pressure them. When outside politics, when politicians from other countries start making phone calls to the European Union, it means something. If you could pressure your local congressman in the US or Canada, or wherever you live into making a phone call on behalf of stopping Article 13 or Article 11, it would carry weight. And of course, if you're the European Union, you have the ultimate constituency power to contact your local MEP and voice your opinion of what you feel about this. And don't be fooled. This is going to affect everyone on the internet if this goes through, not just people in the European Union. So it will behoove you to do something about it. Next, at a date to be announced, the EU member states governed will vote in the Council. So this is an interesting statement. Next, at a date to be announced. So there were large protests against this scheduled for the week of the 23rd. And the party that's trying to push this through found out, and they are pushing to have this vote go ahead before these organized protests get their chance to do their protests. They know about the protests. The vote was originally planned to be after that week. Now it could be before that week. So that's why it says here that they don't know when the vote is officially, but there are sections that are trying to push it up even sooner than it was originally scheduled for, to try to keep the voices from being heard. So, it's ultimately in our court, the people that live in the world, to make our voices heard. Because this is the future of the internet we're talking about, and that is not a meme, that is a reality of the situation. Anyway, I'm James Johnson. I live here in the US, and I implore anyone in Europe to try to talk some sense into their MEPs, and anyone listening here in US or other countries, contact your representatives. Why not? Tell them that this law is going to affect you, because it is, and you don't want it to. If you could get your congressman to call up a MEP and voice their disapproval of Article 13, I'm sure that would go a long way towards helping the dissent against Article 11 and Article 13. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, I'm James Johnson. This is my channel. Hopefully you appreciate my content. If so, leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, peace.